Kings of Leon, When You See Yourself. It is 11 songs, 51 minutes long. Their first LP in 5 years, because their last one was Walls in 2016.
Wow.
They are a band I've listened to a lot. I've really enjoyed them coming up from like their hit Only by the Night in '08. Obviously, that was a great album you had Because of the Times the year before that. And then one of my favorite alternative rock albums, Come Around Sundown in 2010. I had some of my favorite alt rock pieces that have ever been made, honestly. Pyro is such a damn good song. And then Mechanical Bull was okay. They kind of went in a different direction. They had some decent tracks, and Walls was okay as well. But now we go into When You See Yourself. And we reviewed The Bandit and 100,000 People for singles. And now in the context of the album makes a little bit more sense for how they puts it off. The first song, When You See Yourself, Are You Far Away? So almost a title-ish track. Starts off slowly, and it slowly builds and builds. Like this is like a throwback Kings of Leon song to their older style of song making, like in the Pyro days or wanting to Come Around Sundown phase, but then modernizing it a little bit into a gorgeous alt rock track that like crescendos ups and like the vocals, everything in there is gorgeous for that opening track. It's a little long, but Kings of Leon are known for making longer songs. They've always done that. So
I'll also say, just like a random note, the albums we're reviewing today are all in the north of 50 minutes mark, which is absolutely gargantuan as far as 2021 terms go. But this is like in earlier years of Audioface, before late 2020, 2021, would have been like, that's about a perfect amount for an album. Yeah.
And so then next song right after that, you have The Bandit, which very, very good track. I really, really enjoy this. This is to me their return to form. It's their big statement of you can still make good rock, good alt rocks music in 2021. You just have to push it further, have to do it where you can stay true to yourself, but do a little bit different stuff in it. And it's a great track. I really like it. Great, perfect placement after When You See Yourself, because it started off a little bit slow, gets in there, and then you could kind of get a theme of the album with that. So very good in that regard.
I still have the same opinion as when The Bandit 100,000 People came out as an EP, whereas of the two, I like 100,000 People.
Which is right after.
Yeah, right afterwards. Makes sense. With 100,000 People, as I remarked when we did it as a single, even though I'm not the biggest, like I don't remember Kings of Leon's discography that much because I wasn't with it that much when I was younger. To me, 100,000 People at least dictates that they're moving their sound forward and that they're keeping the alternative aspect while lightly adding synthesizers and other notes in here to kind of keep it going. I actually love that combination for them.
And I love that in the context of the album now, because the issue with it as a two singles, they were two very different songs. So that's why I'm like, okay, I really like The Bandit because it's upbeat, fast, it feels fun. But now 100,000 People right after The Bandit in the context of this, I really love the synths in there. They're playing with different sounds, especially like as it slows down, it builds up, and just the crescendo towards the end, and when you add the synths, it gives it a little bit different of a feel for Kings of Leon, which is nice because the thing, like they have a very particular sound. They've been known for making bangers and stuff over the past decade plus, 15 years. And this is now saying, hey, we can do better stuff. We can take our time with work because it's been 5 years since Walls. And I'm glad they took their time because it's a good album. There are still some issues I have with it, which is issues I have with Kings of Leon, where there's some songs I could kind of do without, or things I think slow it down a little too much, but there's still some stuff that are fantastic. Example, right after 100,000 People, I got Stormy Weather, which might be my favorite song on the album, because it's between two, Stormy Weather and A Wave, which happen to be right next to each other.
This is a stacked early part of the album.
It's a very, very front-heavy album to me, because the first half of the album, it just great track after great track after great track after great track. Going on to a Wave right after that is you get this beautiful rock piece, and then it's just giving you all of the emotion you had in like neo-pop and a bunch of other genres that we reviewed into an alt-rock song, which no one really does except Incubus. And like, because we had The Killers last year, that was a decent alt-rock stuff, a little bit maybe too poppy for me, but this is the tried and true of what you can do with alt-rock, and this is my favorite stuff, and God, it's such a good track.
Yeah, it's nice to hear the perfect kind of like happening of bringing 2010s sounds to the modern era.
Yes.
It's really like, when they do it right. It's not done right every song on the
No.
album, but it's perfect when it is.
Yeah, because those like a wave is like the epitome of what can you do with that specific kind of time capsule sound and push it forward, and you do that, and it's just blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
No pun intended, but it is damn good. I listened to that song a lot the past couple of days. The guitar work, everything. But anyways, after that you go to Golden Restless Age, which is a decent track. I think it still like keeps up with the theme of the album. Then after that you got Time in Disguise, which then slows it down. And this is when I started to have a tiny bit of issues with the album, but not too much. This is when I'm like, okay, it's this typical Kings of Leon, because what they like to do is usually they front load their albums. And then like the middle is when they slow it down. Sometimes they do acoustic pieces or other things. And they did that in this album for sure.
Down to Times in Disguise for me, I'm still loving it.
I'm still loving it too. Yeah,
I
100%.
found, and then I even still like the pacing of the album as it is too. Once you get past A Wave, Golden Restless Age and Times in Disguise are slower, but still keeping the instrumentation of the earlier part of the albums. Just showing that there's range here. There are
definitely range.
Yeah, there are definitely albums where sometimes they stay at a high pace
And you don't want,
the whole time, or low pace the
that.
whole
Like
time.
Smashing
Just give us some
Pumpkins was
range.
here the entire time. We're like, okay, chill.
Yeah.
With this, I love that because it starts high, it starts low, goes up high, and just a slow descent down towards the ending of the album, because you got Supermarket afterwards, which is a good song too. Claire and Eddie, which then gets more into the more acoustic stuff. This is their older Kings of Leon sound. When then this is that really chill, almost sounds like a beachy theme, which is funny because they're from Nashville. But they always have like Pyro come around sundown. Like they had a bunch of Radioactive even in 2010. Yeah, those sounds are almost like beachy type themes to me, which is funny for how they do that, considering they're the South. After Claire and Eddie, you had Echoing, which picks it up a little bit afterwards, which I'm really glad they had that track after Claire and Eddie.
Yeah. Echoing definitely does a good job to pick up really the latter half of the album.
Yeah.
And I've heard of the album, this one, about 3 times now. And yeah, definitely first half versus second half. I have preferences towards the first half, but I'm decently happy with what they
The
did
second
with
half
the
is
second
still
half.
good. I think I'm gonna go on a whim. This may be next to their, Only About the Night or Come Around Sundown. This may be one of their best albums they've made.
It's definitely up there.
Because of the times, how they are as a band. They've been around for a very long time, and in a space that is pretty crowded by a bunch of other artists. To actually put this out in 2021 is a statement of, hey, people can still make this music. And we've been saying this for ages on Audioface.
It's really not, I mean, as we're getting to the end, especially, Fairy Tale has one of those like pristine album enders, which is really good.
Gorgeous album enders. I love it because it has the guitar.
Some strings in the back. With the guitar.
With the guitar and the strings, I was going to say. It reminded me of Johnny Greenwood's production in there. Because you add strings in the background and you have a guitar mimicking the strings with it too. Greenwood uses a quarter when he plays with that stuff, but then in other words, you could do really quick strumming and kind of go up and down and slide around with the guitar to mimic the strings in the background, which not many people do.
Yeah.
It's very, very rare you hear that. And with that as an ending, it's very, very good.
I mean, this is the album you expect from a band who is as many albums through as they are.
Yes.
You expect them to be masters. You expect them to just like know their craft and do it and be able to execute it. And they did.
And they did 100%.
Really well.
They nailed it on the head. And when I heard that they were making an album last year, I was very hyped for it. But I'm still like cautious because, Audioface skepticism. I'm like, let's see what happens. Because Walls I did enjoy. I thought it was a little too upbeat. I'm like, I want them to kind of do a little bit different and see what they can do. And this is like an accumulation of all of their work and shit.
I think
one of my favorite albums of the year.
Hell of a good job.
Great work.
Yeah. Arbitrary scale, as we do in every episode of Audioface, because other music reviewers give letters that don't make sense when you compare them to 2 different albums or numbers.
Two different genres or other, like it
doesn't make sense.
Don't work.
So we on Audioface figured out the best scale to use to review albums. A scale that doesn't make sense at all. So
an arbitrary scale that changes per episode.
Yes. This week it is the federal minimum wage in the United States in what year? Obviously, more is better, but not too much. Otherwise, the poor people will get lazy.
Exactly.
And get dependent on the government. So there's a threshold here.
There's a threshold, exactly. All right.
I'm going to give this, this is the mid-90s. This is Gingrich just got in. Decided to raise the minimum wage to $5.15. $5.15? Yeah, that's the first time
Damn,
it's north of
Gingrich,
$4.
shit.
Like, wow, look at that. Bill Clinton's got this new intern there. It's nothing interesting going to happen there anytime soon. It's a really good time. But anyways, $5.15. I mean, obviously, I would say this album is phenomenal, and I would give it the adjusted for inflation $25 an hour minimum wage that we should probably have. But
this is a solid, a solid $1 in 1956 because that could buy you like a house.
yeah, that's the thing you have to think about with these numbers.
Inflation,
That, like,
baby.
inflation has not at all kept pace with
Wages
minimum
since
wage
the 80s, yeah.
at all. I mean, arguably since the 70s. I did more
70s,
research on it.
yeah,
I did more research on it this.
Basically, when neoliberalism started, more or less.
Yeah, I did more research on it this week for my shows, and I found out that like it was even way worse. I mean, like it started even way earlier than I expected. Usually, like
Thanks,
1980s, there's like a neoliberalism thing, but you know, but yeah, it was. Why am I talking about minimum wage? This is a music podcast. This is amazing. It's a good album, and I recommend y'all listen to it.
Please listen to this album. It is very, very good.